Polite Banter, the podcast, your mom's favorite podcast. Back again with our second episode. Today we're going to talk about the Tiger King, do a little top three, segue into some questions, and to segue into this, and the question that everybody wants to know, Grant, are you still doing the push-ups, bud?
Yes, sir. I've actually, I was doing 10 at a time, upped it to 15 at a time.
Ooh.
Oh
So
my
I'm still getting
goodness.
big.
Grant,
Yeah.
slow down.
Everybody
You
look
don't
out
need-
there.
You don't need that big of shoulders for track.
Bro, I mean, I only do 10 at a time, but now I might have to do 16 now, just to one up you, bud. So, yeah.
Get on my level.
Exactly. Elijah, how you doing?
Pretty good. Another week down of online classes. So that's a thing. Yeah.
Man, it's a struggle. I have no motivation to do anything. I have to literally just tell myself all right, we're gonna do this, and it's gonna be okay. But yeah,
I kind of
Chris.
feel that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Chris, how we doing?
Doing good. I think this was definitely the week that it kind of hit for me. Wow, this is kind of what life is going to be like. But, keeping busy with school, trying stuff. Weather's nice finally where I'm in Appleton, so that's a plus. But yeah, that's about it.
Nice.
Sun's finally out,
Yeah, how is the weather there? I mean, it's Wisconsin.
Ironically, most Aprils are terrible. We'll get snow in April, but April is super nice now. So it's crazy.
Nice. I'm not gonna lie. I need some of that vitamin D, so I literally sunbathe in my backyard. I just laid out, got a little tan, but because it was 70s.
How's the weather out there?
Nice.
70s?
So 2 days ago, it was 70, and all this week it's just raining, 50 degrees. So it's that Bay weather, just cloudy sometimes. It's kind of like Seattle, but not really. Sometimes it gets cloudy. Sometimes get some warm weather. But other than that, yeah, we're going good. All right, to segue into our top three. So today's episode is going to be about the Tiger King, and I gotta say, kind of a wild show. I really didn't expect at all that any of that was gonna happen, to be honest. And there were some parts of the documentary where I just flat out was this is not real. They had to switch something up, but no, all of it's real. But yeah, top three this week is going to be top three people from the show you would bring if there was an apocalyptic scenario, like a zombie apocalypse. Who would you bring along? And for my number three spot, and this might be a surprise to some of our viewers, even some of the people here, Carol Baskin. I'm taking her along, and this is why. So Carol, as you know,
She's crazy.
bro,
Risky move.
Bro, she's wild. She's she reminds me of a third grade teacher, and that she's fake being nice, but she'll snap at any second. Maybe that was my third grade teacher.
Don't get on her bad
I
side.
kind of get that vibe. Yeah, I kind of understand that, honestly.
Bro, I get that vibe, and also, dude, she acts like she messes with the mafia. She got some connections, and we all know that her husband, disappeared. But we can get into that later. But I feel like if there was an a zombie apocalypse, she could make the zombies disappear.
Ooh.
See, Jacob,
okay.
I don't know though. What happens when one day you just disappear?
And that's why it's just
True.
my third spot. Okay, Grant. What do you got for
All
me?
right. Makes sense. Okay. My number three is Mario Taburare, aka Scarface. From the looks of it, he has a pretty sweet crib, okay? He's got his own security team. Security cameras, gates and whatnot. One way in, one way out. I wouldn't mind living there. He is loaded with money. From his past, as a drug lord. I looked up his net worth. Found it to be $70 million. Yeah.
Oh my
That's some
God.
big bud.
So yeah,
You're right. He's kind of got a fortress there, honestly.
I would be
forgot
living
about that.
pretty nice. He knows how to get rid of a body when he needs to. That's kind of how he had to go to jail, I think.
Yeah.
And to be honest, he's probably the most normal guy in the whole
Oh,
documentary.
he's the most sane. Like everybody, bud. Like it's kind of wild.
Except for the whole drug lord thing.
yeah.
But yeah,
Nice.
Mario, number 3.
Yeah, Elijah, what do you got?
Okay, I got a little bit of a different one here, and I tried to go with the people that were a little more sane. So for my number 3, I've got Eric Cowie, the head gatekeeper or the head keeper at GW Zoo.
Oh,
Remember the guy, long blonde hair?
Yeah, long blonde hair.
So
Yeah.
I love
let me
that
tell you
dude.
why. So first of all, he's really hardworking. You could totally tell that when everyone else was doing their crazy stuff, he was the man taking care of the tiger. Super hardworking. He's tender and caring. I feel like that's something important that you're going to need in an apocalypse. You can tell he really cares about the tigers, and also he's very adaptable to situations. This man was in prison, and then right out of prison, he goes to being a keeper at a zoo, something he's never done. So clearly, he's really adaptable.
Wow.
Okay. I kind of forgot about him when like making the list. Yeah, he was pretty cool. I gotta say, the hair was rocking, bud. That's all I gotta say. All right,
That's
Chris.
true, and
Yeah.
and the hair's a plus.
Bro, exactly. Chris, number 3.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go along with kind of Eli's route of the more sane characters. I was gonna go with Joshua Dial, his campaign manager when Joe was, running for
Yeah.
president.
Governor,
And,
president.
The dude just seemed like it was just one of those situations he just ended up in. And one of my favorite quotes was when he's like, "Yeah, Joe didn't even know what a libertarian is." So he just seemed like a chill guy. And then also the fact that he was like his reaction to Travis's death, that was pretty crazy. But I feel like the dude is like pretty strong. He doesn't seem like it on the outside, but inside he is. So
Yeah.
I think that's what I would choose.
He's your logical thinker in the scenario. He could
Yeah.
get you out of some deep doo doo.
He was one of the many voices of reason who didn't seem as crazy as the other characters.
I gotta agree. All right, voting time. Gotta vote for who I think the best is. And I'm not gonna lie, Grant did a good job. I totally forgot about Mr. Scarface. Homie got the pillow fort.
Yes.
He's got some money, and he is probably the most sane person, regardless of his drug dealer status. So, Grant, what do you got?
I'm gonna have to go with Elijah. Yeah. The adaptability from going to prison to be, in cages with tigers. I think that would be pretty nifty in a apocalyptic scenario.
Very useful skill. All right, and I gotta go with Grant too. I totally forgot about Mario. He's got a freaking fort. He knows how to hide bodies. Yeah, it's gotta be Grant.
Yeah, I think it's no question Grant, hands down. I think I'm gonna give it to him for this one.
I gotta agree.
Give it up to Scarface.
Grant did his
Wow.
research. He was studying
Grant with
last
the
night.
almost sweep.
He's sweeping it up. All right. So we'll get to our number 2 spots. Number 2 for me, and this one, I don't know. Even though it's like probably the most notable character in the whole entire series, I gotta go with Joe Exotic. Because I feel like he is super crazy, obviously. Big manipulative. But he's kind of like the head honcho when it comes to like getting rid of people. He's like, I'll pay you $5,000 to kill Carol,
Oh yeah.
And I feel
Oh.
like he's like kind of unrealistic when it comes to the whole visionary thing, what he wants to do. But come on, zombie apocalypse is pretty unrealistic. So, and I feel like you'd have so many ideas. You'd be like, all right, we're gonna burn this barn with alligators. Wait, I'm just kidding. and then we're gonna do some crazy stuff, and I'm there for it. So yeah, that's my number 2 spot. G Stanky, what do you got, bud?
All right, my number 2 is Rick Kirkham, the producer of Joe Exotic TV, aka Mr. I don't care what you think. Seemingly, he's been through a lot of experiences in his life. Like in the first episode, it showed like him starting himself on fire, I think. So he's probably fire resistant. So that's like
Ooh.
a good trait to have.
That's a good plus.
Another one, he dealt with Joe Exotic for like a long period of time. So
Tolerance.
that kind of speaks for itself. And he's probably good with explosives because he may or may not have blown up Joe's alligator barn. But who knows?
Hey, conspiracy. Nice. Elijah,
Oh, yeah.
number 2.
All right, my number 2 is probably not one you're gonna guess, but I think he's actually the most sane out of everyone. Eric Good, the producer, the man behind the show itself.
Behind the camera.
Okay, so listen, so he's there the whole time. He's with all these crazy people, and he's so good at dealing with them and keeping calm around all this crazy stuff that's going around him. And I think that's like got to be the number one trait you would want for an apocalyptic scenario. He's just good at keeping he's good at keeping calm around crazy people, and he's obviously very intelligent. Obviously, the show was great.
I have to agree. Also, I have to agree with Elijah, even though I'm supposed to get my own points, but I have to agree with Elijah here because everybody that entered Joe's life ended up going crazy one way or another. They ended up just losing it. He was the only person that was around Joe for like that amount of time that maybe he is crazy. I don't know, but from what I saw, he seemed pretty sane. So
cool as a cucumber.
And obviously, he was smart enough to put everything together. So
exactly. All right, Chris, what do you got?
All right, I got a good one here. Kelsey Safira, I think that's how you say it. He is introduced in the very first episode, and then at the end, and then the second episode, we learn that his arm was taken off by a tiger, and then the fact that he showed up to work, like, I think it was like 7 days later, that just blows my mind. Like, you lost an arm, and the fact that he didn't, like, talk bad about Joe, and he kept a positive attitude. I just think that's crazy.
Persistence. Yeah, that definitely like surprised me. I love how Joe was just like on the scene where like it happened. Like, give me tape, give me this. He's like, call 911.
Yeah, that whole thing kind of like set the stage for like, oh my goodness, this show is gonna be absolutely crazy. Because I feel like that was like the first like traumatic thing to happen, and Joe kind of just handled it like, oh no, this happened again.
Handle it like a champ, honestly.
Exactly. I feel like if the show was like a paper, the first episode was kind of like, the intro. That first body paragraph, that first sentence was the arm getting cut off. That was the first. Yep. That was what got it going. You were like, oh man.
Oh yeah.
We're in for.
And just to add on to that, how that applies to the zombie apocalypse, like he's tough. So I think that in a survival situation, he lost an arm, he can keep going. I don't know. That's just my opinion.
It's true. Very resilient, but he also stuck his hand in a tiger cage.
Yeah,
that's true.
Hey, he's willing to go through extreme measures,
Yeah, it's just like
good character quality.
Persistent and hardworking.
Persistent, yes.
All right, voting time. I gotta think. I mean, everybody has some good ones. I'm gonna actually go with. I'm gonna go with Chris this time. Actually, I kind of agree.
Yeah.
I mean, to get your arm ripped off, and
it's just incredible.
To go back to work faster than like most people have the common flu to go back to work. That's pretty wild. So I'm gonna give it to that. Grant, what do you think?
I'm gonna have to give this one to Elijah.
Ooh.
The producer of the whole show, the whole documentary, and staying cool as a cucumber. Yeah, I think that's a good trait to have during an apocalypse. So yeah,
Agreed.
Elijah, what do you think?
All right, I'm actually gonna go with Jacob on this one. The man himself. I know he's got to be one of the craziest, but you can't deny he's got some money. He's got some guns. He's very creative. You're always gonna have to be watching your back because he's probably gonna backstab you at some point. But like to start off with, he'd be a good way to get started, especially when things are really crazy.
I definitely agree with that one because my vote. Yeah, I know. Chris, what do you got?
I'm gonna have to go with you, Jacob. Joe Exotica. The first time I saw the dude, shoot that shotgun at the water, I was like, okay, this dude can shoot. So if things went down, like there were zombies, crazy people, any apocalyptic situation, he seems like he could take care of himself, crazy or not, So I'm gonna give it to Joe Exotica.
Agreed. All right, final round. This is the one person you're definitely taking in this scenario. And for my number one, I'm giving it to Travis. And it's the dude that came from Southern California, came to the farm. He was young, right? He was like 18, 19.
Yeah, he's like 18 or something.
Yeah, he was super young.
Fell into some addiction, got a little messed up there at the end. But the dude is 6'6". He got big hands, big feet. He's a gorilla, okay? This man could strangle a zombie if he needs to.
True.
You saw him on the 4-wheeler. My dude was like off-roading. Hey, that's some barbaric stuff. He knows how to shoot, and yeah, he is the Chewbacca of the group. I gotta say, he's the dude that's gonna get it done.
It also looks like he could fight too.
That's what I'm
like
saying.
him going at that semi-trailer.
I mean, he gave it a good thud.
He was giving it to him.
That's true. He was really going after that semi.
He gave it a good thud. Yeah. All right, Grant, what do you got?
All right, my number one person I definitely want to be with, Bhagavan Doc Antle.
Okay.
Number one.
Doc
okay.
Antle, wow.
Yes, sir. Okay. He said he has a loaded AK-47 under his bed at all times. So that right there is like, I don't know. I think that's a good choice. He has a lot of connections with Hollywood. He provided like animals for Ace Ventura and other movies. So yeah, he has connections. He also seems like a sort of normal guy, minus all the cult stuff and many wives.
The fact that he runs a cult. He's a normal
Yeah.
guy once he gets to
Other
know.
than that, he's normal.
For this show, that is normal, okay?
Also, another factor, he has a major in mystical arts. So he could probably like mix me some potions or something like that. So
Some
yeah.
Skyrim
Alright.
stuff, bro.
Mystical arts, nice.
All right, Elijah.
All right. The number one person I would bring with me in an apocalypse is Tim Stark. So if you remember, he's the owner of Wildlife in Need. So listen, he's got money. This man is loaded. He started building a second zoo. And also, he was the only one that is actually working on that zoo. So he's hardworking. He's got the guns. He owns tigers. Those could be an asset. And also, out of everyone, he's got the most animals. So a little morbid, but if can't find any food,
You do what you gotta do.
right? He's got the most useful stuff, and he's hardworking.
That's hard to not agree with. Nice. All right, Chris, take it away.
Yeah, so I think Carol Baskin is definitely 100% my number one for a variety of reasons. Do I like her as a person?
She's gonna
Absolutely
feed you
not.
to the tigers.
Yeah.
Septic tank.
Absolutely not.
Septic tank.
One of the quotes in the show was one of the politicians described her as completely ruthless, and that is definitely evident. She will get what she wants, and she works hard, and she's got money. She's completely crazy, but I think if there was an apocalypse, she would, just kind of like Joe, she would find a way to survive. And yeah, I think with her husband very suspicious. Yeah, we'll see how that turns out in the next few months, year. More details come out on that. But yeah, Carol's my number one.
Nice. All right, voting time, the final round. This one, you guys had some good ones, but Grant is gonna get my vote this time. Actually,
The Doc.
The Doc. I didn't realize he had the major in mystical whatever.
Mystical arts.
Alchemy. My man is going
That was a
Skyrim.
kicker.
Some restoration potions over here. So I think my dude would be well off. All right, Grant, what do you got?
I am gonna have to go with Chris. Honestly,
Yeah.
like you said, she is very ruthless. She gets what she wants. Might not get along with her the best. Might try to kill you, but I don't know. She's ruthless. That's my vote.
Nice, Elijah.
All right. All right. I actually got to give it to Grant. I was kind of skeptical, but I forgot about the mystical arts things. If he starts teaching you some of that, you're basically going to be a level 10 wizard by the end of this thing. So, got to go with Grant.
Agreed, Chris.
Yeah. Oh boy, this was really really tough, but I'm going to have to go with Grant for a couple of reasons. He was first off, he was almost my number one. Uh, but when I saw that dude ride that elephant, I was like, okay, this guy,
Oh yeah.
he means business. And yeah, just the fact that he was in Hollywood, I always find that really interesting. The way he was so happy when he was showing himself on Letterman, when he's like, yeah, those are my cats or whatever. But yeah, I would give it to him. Yeah. Grant, yeah, number one spot, definitely deserves it.
All right.
The final score. Tying. So last time I did first place, went down. We're going to switch it up, even though it's not going to really matter because all tying for second place. Elijah, Jacob, and Chris, all with 2 points.
All
Oh,
tied.
Wow.
And we got Mr. Grant himself with 6 points, leading the top 3 this time.
Wow.
I don't know
Okay.
how you,
Oh
I
my
don't know how you do it, but you're
And
good.
don't forget, he won last week, too.
Reigning champion. We got
The grand champion.
the Grant champion.
The grand champion.
Yep. All right.
All
And
right.
to kind of segue into our first discussion question, we got a few. I feel like this show is just when I first started watching this show, I saw the length of each episode. I saw how long. It's like 7 episodes. I kind of thought to myself that like there's no way that they need 7 episodes. After finishing the show, they need a season 2. Like there's so much to dissect. But for our first question, and probably the most not controversial, the one that people get most outspoken about is, did Carol Baskin kill her husband? And I think I'm gonna let's give it to Elijah just to start it off. Like Elijah, what is your take on this?
Okay, so I honestly I think she out of everyone, she's the most manipulative out of everyone in the show. So I think she's so good, kind of like what you were saying, kind of like pretending that she's all nice when really I feel like she has all these ulterior motives. And I think that she's like so good at like telling people the right things to like convince them that I feel like if she didn't murder him, there's got to be something she's hiding. She's just hiding something. Not to mention she's got so many different ways to hide the body or to dispose of the body.
Definitely, yeah, good points. Grant, build on top of that. What do you think?
Totally agree with Elijah. She definitely, like, she did something. There was foul play involved. And I think she either hired someone to kill her husband or she did it herself because, she's a ruthless woman. But yeah, like, I just find it hard to believe that someone like a millionaire just goes missing and like you just can't find him. Like, I just find that really hard to believe.
True.
And yeah.
Yeah, and the craziest part to me is that like in the will, she changed the wording to have if disappearance. No
Yeah.
one has disappearance.
No
in
one
their
ever
will.
has that.
5 years later, he's declared dead. She has all the money.
The lawyer said that in 19 years he's never seen disappearance on
Right.
a will.
Yeah,
That was the first time.
exactly.
That's insane. All right, Chris, what do you got?
Right.
Yeah, I think even sooner we're gonna actually find more and more information about this. I was reading some articles about for the future of the show, like content and like things that they're gonna address, and I don't think she killed him personally, but definitely she knows where you don't just disappear. Most of the time in history when you see these like disappearances, it's always a murder. The details will show up. So I think at this point we just kind of got to wait and see, what they find. But yeah, it's really, really weird. I'm really interested more into the investigation after the show, what they're gonna do. So
Yeah,
we'll see.
definitely. So yeah, all good points. So naturally, while I guess first watching, I think it was around like the middle of the series, like third or fourth episode, this all went down. But initially watching it, I was like, this is a no-brainer. Carol obviously killed her husband. Like, there's no way around it. But then some like red flags came up to like, I guess kind of like why maybe she couldn't. Maybe I don't know. One reason that I think I have to go with is her new husband Howard. He seems like a pretty sane guy, actually. Like, there's nothing comes up as suspicious, and
He's so weirdly devoted to her, though.
Did you see that wedding picture?
Hey, I see some
Him
weird
on a
wedding
leash,
pictures, but
dude.
I mean, listen. The show's called Polite Banter, but I might get on you this time. Listen, but no, listen. All I'm saying is nothing really comes up as like alarming. Yeah, the wedding pictures were a little weird, but then again, it's like they just like their cats. They're just invested in that lifestyle, and I feel like Howard. I don't know. I feel like if there was something weird, and he's been behind closed doors with Carol, I feel like he would have left by now. I don't know. That's just me. Maybe we're not seeing enough of Howard than we need to, but yeah. The other thing I want to bring up, and probably the most, I guess the one thing that kind of shook me the most. So this her husband, this millionaire, he's a pretty low key guy. They kind of talk about in the show that he wears jeans, t-shirts, does not flaunt his money in any way, and he was with his wife and his daughters for a lot of years, and then one day just decided to leave. So we know this man's spontaneous. We know this man will get up and leave if he needs to. It's kind of just what he does. It's a pattern in what he does. And then again, he kind of just disappears and leaves again. So when he left again, you have to admit, this isn't a new thing that he does. He's kind of just known to get up and leave and go somewhere else. Maybe he went to go to Costa Rica. And apparently he had a lover in Costa Rica. But hey, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember, there was at one point one of his close friends was saying how like the last thing he said to him was like, if I pull this off, it'll be the greatest thing I've ever done. Like, which is like, it was so quick, but it's like, that's so weird. And also like, I do kind of get that he's very like a secretive person as well. Like literally no one knows how much money he has. Like no one knows how much money he's actually worth. So very secretive guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I do think a second season would address that more, but I'm gonna say that I'm gonna agree with Grant in that she was involved in some way. Like I think she kind of said some stuff to him, but I think he, with his money, just set up a scene, left his van at the plane place, whatever, airport, and just kind of did the dip, kind of went somewhere else. All right, next topic. So, as you guys know in the show, Joe decides to run for president and then eventually governor. The whole thing was just for publicity. He's a big public guy. But the question is, I'm going to get off of Chris this time to start off. Do you think Joe would make a good president?
Oh boy. You know what? I looked up his campaign ad on YouTube because I was really interested to see the full thing. And honestly, yeah, I'd vote for Joe. Yeah, I don't know. It was really good. No, all jokes aside, I always admire like super like hilarious like ad campaigns like that. And I'll admit it, he got straight to the point. He told what he's about. He had tigers in the background. Yeah, the dude knows how to advertise himself. Yeah. Grant, would you vote for Joe? Joe
I don't know, guys. Just picturing Joe Exotic sitting in the Oval Office. I don't know. It kind of gives me a icky feeling inside. I don't know. And him like talking to like world leaders like Xi Jinping or something like that, or Vladimir Putin. I don't know. It just doesn't look right.
Yeah, Elijah, what do you
But
got?
yeah.
Oh my goodness. I have to say absolutely not. Not a question. There is no way Joe Exotic would be my president. Okay, so the only redeeming quality that he has, and that like I know that's something that some other people mentioned that they kind of liked about his campaign, is the fact that he's like so open, and he kind of like speaks in a language that people understand. I can kind of get that. I know that's something that people really like about Trump, but he's way too self-centered. I don't think he knows a darn thing about foreign policy. There's no way. And just the fact that he didn't realize that he had absolutely no chance of getting the presidency or getting elected as the governor, I gotta say no.
Yeah. So initially, again, I'm very good at this whole like trying to 180 this whole thing with these topics. I think I did it again because I was thinking, yeah, Joe would make an awful president. I mean, he's self-centered. He is too like loud spoken. Doesn't have good perspective as far as putting himself in other people's shoes. But then I thought about it. What is the difference between him and most politicians? Like a lot of money,
Zing.
works behind closed doors, gets some weird, some dirty work done. You know, I'm not gonna say which.
Tons of tigers.
Tons of tigers. Money has money to bring people in and have people stay. Lavish, I don't know, lavish lifestyles. But I mean, there's a lot of obviously differences, but there's a lot of similarities. But no, really, I don't think he should be president. I thought it was funny, and I thought it was like Chris said earlier in the episode. I thought it was hilarious how he asked what a libertarian even was. He even know what it was. Yeah, so great moment in the show. Next topic. Let's see. So let's do, in your opinion, guys, who is the worst character? And worst character as in like most out of their mind, like the person that just like completely lost it in this whole entire thing. And I'm gonna give it to Elijah this time to start it off. What do you think?
For me, it's got to be Carol. I think she's just so devious in the way that she does things. I think she's so good at lying, and like obviously you can't know for sure if she's lying, but just like the way she says things, I just get such a bad vibe. And the thing is, I think she's super intelligent, and for that reason, I think she's dangerous too. And that's why I gotta say she's the worst character for sure.
All right, Grant.
I think, like, as far as most evil person in the whole show, gotta be Jeff Lowe. Like, the guy that was partying in Vegas all the time with, like, baby tigers. He bought out Joe Exotic's zoo. And also, he just gives off a creepy vibe, you know? He just, like, always, like, muttering. And he's, like, always got, like, this bandana on. Seems like he doesn't really care about the animals at all, just about money. Like he was smuggling baby tigers in suitcases to like make money. I don't know. And also he's kind of like a backstabbing son of a gun. Totally faked out Joe Exotic with like his mansion, even though it wasn't his mansion. He just like rented it out. And I don't know. Just seems like an evil dude.
I will say about Jeff Lowe, he's the only one out of the crazy people that's not willing to put in work for what they want. He just always just cons and pays his way to get people to do stuff from him.
For sure.
All right, Chris, what do you got?
I am also going to go with Jeff Lowe because he's just kind of a sleazeball. Yeah,
Agreed.
I mean, yeah, Grant said it perfectly. I'll say this about Carol. I don't like her, but she's just so fascinating. Like you know what I mean? Like you don't like her, but at the same time, you kind of do like Carol. Like she's so unlikable that she's likable.
You know? I don't like her.
Never mind. But I like Carol. She was entertaining to watch. Where, yeah, the other guy, he's just kind of a sleazeball. Didn't like him. Seems like a terrible person. I don't know.
Yeah. And to kind of build off that, I have to agree with Grant and Chris here. Jeff Lowe, he definitely was. And when I was thinking about it, it seemed like he was the most sane. Like he knew what he was talking about as far as like, I don't even know. But again, criminal background, weak jawline.
That's true.
The man backstabbed Joe. Which, I mean, Joe wasn't doing all the right things either. But then again, he knew what he was doing. He was going to take over Joe from the inside, build his own zoo and then make money off it. And I didn't know this, but supposedly, this guy is from Indiana, Jeff Lowe, and he lives in Indiana. So
That's a red
shout out,
flag.
hey, no,
Flag
shout
right
out to my Hoosiers.
Don't ever trust a Hoosier.
Hey, I don't know, but shout out to my Hoosiers out there for corrupting Joe Exotic. Let's go. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, Jeff Lowe, definitely. He definitely was the devious. He was a sleazeball, as Chris said. And I don't know, man. Yeah. So, kind of getting to the end, I guess, of our topics. Let's see. Let's do. So it's the coronavirus. Everybody knows. Depending on what state you are, it's more severe in others. But for the most part, you're not leaving your house. Hopefully, listening to this podcast. But yeah, you're not doing much. So in this quarantine, who would you want? Like out of all the characters, who would you want to be in quarantine with? And I'm gonna give this to Chris to start off. Chris, who would you want to be in quarantine with?
Yeah, I think I would have to go with Carol. Yeah, I know I'm putting my life at risk, but I don't know. I feel like she would be really interesting, and I would never be bored, and she would have a lot of stuff to talk about.
Yeah, no,
I like cats. I would find it fascinating. I don't know. I feel like I'm always intrigued by like people with like vibrant personalities. So I think it would be extremely fun to just listen to her, just like whatever she's talking about. I don't know, but I think that would be my number one.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm gonna go Team Carol.
Nice, Grant. Who would you want to be quarantined with?
Okay, so I'm probably gonna say like the complete opposite of what Chris was saying. Like the least vibrant, the least interesting person, Howard Baskin, her husband.
Howard.
You would want
Yes.
Howard?
Howard.
Yes, because he would just mind his own business, let me do my thing, not worry. And yeah, because some people are kind of geeking out about this whole coronavirus. And I think he'd just be, like I said, cool as a cucumber. Okay?
Cool as a cucumber.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta kind of agree. I think I'm going to agree with Grant here, and that Howard is your run-of-the-mill Midwest dad almost. Can get goofy at times, but pretty stern.
Maybe that's why I picked it.
Yeah, pretty stern, but also most realistic. He'd be like, it's. Don't get me wrong, coronavirus is a big deal, but he's one of the guys that are gonna be like, dude, like not even a big deal. Let's go to Chick-fil-A. Something like that, All right, Elijah, what do you got?
Actually, I gotta go with Rick Kirkham. I feel like he's gotta have the most interesting stories. Also, he's not dangerous. Like a lot of these other people, they're like dangerous and violent. I feel like he's not violent. I mean, unless of course he was the one that burned down the shed, but I don't think so. I feel like he's just got to have the most interesting stories ever. So, gotta go with Rick.
He's definitely been around. I will say that. And yeah, nice. All right, and my last question, and yeah, I'll kind of say the last question, and if anybody we can just build off that question, just keep talking, until we're comfortable with that. But kind of, what would you rate the show, and why would you rate the show? And I'm gonna we'll go back to Grant on this one. Grant, what do you rate the show?
Oh, 10 out of 10 for sure. So many twists and turns, like at the end of the show, and like at the end, I knew he was gonna go to jail, but like I still had to keep watching just to like make sure if he actually was going to go to jail. And like so many weird characters, and it's hard to think like this whole thing was a real documentary, like it wasn't fake at all. So 10 out of 10 for me.
Definitely. Elijah, what do you rate it?
I gotta say 9 out of 10. So I think the show was like brilliant. I think the absolutely craziest part to me is I can't believe how the logistics of capturing all this on video. Like it's just insane how much stuff they like captured on video to actually like produce it as like a documentary. So, and I think the way they framed it too, it had great storytelling. I loved how there was always this sense that even though the characters were like crazy, there was always this sense that they had some innocence to them, or there was like a chance they could be innocent. So, and then I think the best example of this is like at the end of the show, how it kind of shows that how he began out, he was really well intentioned. He really cared about the Tigers, but in the end, the money and power corrupted him.
Yeah.
So I think great show, 9 out of 10.
Yeah, my initial viewing of the show. So obviously, having been living under a rock, you kind of know the show is the big buzz, and I love being like the underdog and stuff. I love finding stuff that people don't like watching, and I thought this would be another example. I thought, like, no offense to my friends lovers, but I thought it was like a new friends, like, oh, it's just a show, a trend, everybody watches. I don't know. Watched it, and I gotta say, blew my mind, and the whole entire like documentary. In my head, I was like, this thing's a 9 out of 10. You know, and 9's good. You know, 10 has to be like perfect. Like, you can't improve. But for me, at first, going through it, first 6 episodes, 9 out of 10, I was like, this show is really good. Just directed very well. I can't believe this actually happened. But what made me want to give it that higher rating is that final scene with the 2 chimpanzees, where Joe Exotic talks about how he has the chimpanzees in 2 separate cages next to each other for like years, and then when he finally let them out into the same cage, they like came together and hugged each other. And Joe kind of had that like coming of age, that full circle, thinking maybe I'm the animal, you know, maybe I'm the one that's deprived the happiness. And then he's literally in a cage in jail, and that to me was just so like, I don't know, a lot of like pathos, and that just so much emotion was like filled with that, but also just a lot of like, I just drove it home. To me, that was like, this series is really good, and I gave it that perfect 10 out of 10 score. Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, you kind of hit it home with that last part. I totally agree. I thought the message was really good. I guess for me, what intrigues me about the show is I love shows with like crazy characters, but in this case, these are all real people, and this is all like legit, and it's still like a pretty modern situation, like that's still going on now. It wasn't that long ago when Joe was arrested. I think it was early 2019, I believe so. But I really enjoyed it. It made me laugh. Actually, this is kind of random, but one of my favorite moments from the show was when Joe was like, "Yeah, I used to do magic," and it pans over to like he learned magic from like this like 8th grade kid, and I remember I just like cracked up laughing. But yeah, it's a good show. Would I give it a 10 out of 10? I'm gonna be real, no. But it was very good. I would give it like an 8 out of 10.
Oh wow. Okay.
But yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes. But yeah, that's it.
Nice. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like for me it was a 10, just perfect quality. Hit all the corners for me, and yeah, just crazy good show. I mean, and also one thing I want to talk about. The one thing that, because my own mother, shout out to my mom, you know, all the moms that listen to the podcast. She told me how the entire time she could just not take it seriously. She was laughing, just like bawling her eyes, just like laughing at this whole entire documentary. Personally, when I watched it, I was more sad than anything. And the reason why I was sad is that, and I've kind of spoke about this with the guys here, but these people vote. Like these people's vote is the same as my vote. Like I don't know. The fact, and I always like knew there were some interesting people out there in the world, but this really opened my eyes that there are people out there that act like this, and they have a right. No, I'm just kidding. But seriously, it's kind of blew my mind that people really get this delusional. Is it contributed to drugs? Is it contributed to being famous? Is it like the power? I don't know. But also, it really scares me. It's kind of daunting. But yeah.
Yeah. The other thing with this documentary that I think, so if you're on the side of PETA, this documentary, it seems like it would be good, but I think actually it's going to have the reverse effect, whereas people are going to want to start going to these parks and actually like seeing these people like not obviously not everyone. Obviously other like everyone still like some people still think it's bad, but there are gonna some people who are gonna go to the parks just to actually see these people.
Yeah. See the characters.
So
yeah.
No, definitely.
So I think in that sense it can kind of go against kind of what their mission is for PETA anyway.
True. No, definitely. And at first, I mean, there's just stigma around Florida. That Florida is just this place of like insane things that happen, and this only proved that theory even more. Like,
For sure.
my goodness. Even though Doc was in Myrtle Beach,
Yeah, South Carolina.
yeah, and then Joe was in Southern Oklahoma. But I mean, Carol, arguably the craziest person from Florida, and that blew my mind. I was like, dang. But yeah. Anything else you guys want to add? Anything?
Ooh, I think most iconic moment of the show when I was like really pulled in. Chris talked about it earlier, but when that worker got her arm ripped off by a tiger, and like just the way Joe handled the whole situation, like he goes into the gift shop to all these customers buying like cute little knickknacks and stuff like that. And he's like, yeah, someone got their arm ground beef by like a tiger. He just gives it to him straight, you know. I think he's a real one for that.
Yeah, it's just crazy how casual it is about it. He just walks in and he's like, all right, before you hear it on the news, someone got their arm ripped off. The park is closing down for today.
Yeah, that to me was just insane. And also, because the first episode, you're introduced to these characters. These people. You know, these are real people. And first impression of Joe, I honestly thought it was an act. Like, I was like, okay, this guy is just acting this way. He has this persona because, you know, it's good for business, good for the park. It wasn't until that moment when he walked into the shop and he said, before you hear on the news, something got their arm ripped off. You get refunds if you want. Like, he was so like not even bugged out about it. That's when I knew that this isn't an act. This is Joe. Like, this is how Joe operates, and I don't know, it's insane. And also, one thing I kind of want to discuss is so in the whole thing they talk about how paranoid Joe is, and then they finally figure out that there's that antenna coming out of his someone was spying on him. That's kind of crazy. So like, I guess what I'm trying to say is, do you give Joe more credit for, I guess, not being as crazy? Because some of the things that he said were crazy, but maybe some things were true. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I think what hit it home for me was how the fact at the end of the show, how they showed those like clips of him, and he just really seemed like a normal guy, and like he cared for like the animals, and he even he dressed like someone you would expect to see at like a conservation zoo for tigers like that, and just like going from that to like what he is now.
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah. Also, one thing I wanted to add, and one thing I kind of picked up on, and more of like a psychology standpoint as far as like reasoning, but everybody that kind of acted out in the show, from what I know, kind of had like parent issues, like in the house. You ever notice that? Like Carol, her parents didn't believe her when her whole thing went down, and she left the house. Joe, when he expressed his sexuality to his parents, he had to shake his hand in front of his mom and promise to never go to his funeral. And I wonder if this is all just like repressed like anger they have for like their childhood, and they somehow are just like, and like they don't feel like they're loved enough, you know. Like, I mean, this is gonna get deep, but you know, they don't feel like they ever got like they ever got the love they wanted from childhood, and they somehow like put it back into these animals to like feel better about themselves. I mean, what do you guys think about that?
Yeah, no,
there is like
true.
There is like a degree of like, you know, there is animal therapy, and obviously like that was shown to some extent, but this is like at a bigger scale, you know. There's so many like psychological layers to it, but yeah, I mean, definitely like animals can help like deal with, you know, inner stress. But yeah,
I mean,
deep stuff.
I know this whole show,
Sure.
it's so many layers. I just did not know how to approach it. But yeah, I mean, I almost want to watch it again just to see what I missed, because I feel like it was so densely packed with content. It was just outrageous. Anything else you guys want to add? I mean, Yeah, I think we kind of hit it home. I mean, but yeah, all right, cool.
Yeah,
Polite
good.
Polite Banter, the podcast. Like, subscribe. Thank you for all the overwhelming support on social media, all the subscribers. We definitely did not anticipate getting this many views in the first episode. And yeah, more to come. Thank you for watching and have a good day.